Good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I will give 30 seconds while people's laptops and computers let them join, and then we will get started. But feel free to share in the chat where you're joining us from today. Jonathan, where are you this morning?
I'm up in Glasgow, actually. So where usually I'm in Malta. I'm in Scotland. My first time here.
Very nice. I assume the weather is not quite as nice.
Well, I guess it's always how you define it, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm a sunshine person, so I'd take Malta over Scotland most days.
Yeah.
But thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and welcome to today's webinar, where we will be showing you the exciting new integration between Telleroo and Buddy. So huge thank you for joining us. Little bit of housekeeping just before we get started. Please do use the Q&A box for any questions, and we absolutely will have time at the end to answer them. The webinar is being recorded, so if you get an urgent phone call and you have to jump off, or you want to share this with any colleagues afterwards, you absolutely will be able to. And the chat is enabled, and feedback is super valuable both for us and for the team over at Buddy. So please do pop any comments, thoughts, feedback in the chat as well. But without further ado, let's get started. So first thing I'm going to do is launch a really quick poll for you to understand what your biggest challenge is with payroll processing at the moment. Is it managing payroll deadlines? Is it handling payroll compliance and tax calculations? Is it tracking employee hours and leave? Or is it making timely payroll payments to employees? And if it's something else, please do pop that in the chat. But while you do that, let me introduce who we have here today. So you've got myself, Kaylee Graham, Head of Partnerships and Growth at Telleroo. And we're also joined by Jonathan, who is co-founder and CTO over at Buddy. So Jonathan, a huge thank you for joining us.
Welcome. It was a pleasure to be on this.
Excellent. So poll-wise at the moment, I'm going to give it another few seconds for people to pop their results in. But at the moment, it's looking like a 50-50 split between handling payroll compliance and tax calculations and tracking employee hours and leave. Oh, it's quickly switching. So please do get your votes in. That is quickly changing before my eyes. But really interesting for us to understand what those challenges are, right? Jonathan and the team super focused on managing a lot of those issues for you, and us at Telleroo obviously helping on the payments side of things. But at the moment, handling payroll compliance and tax calculations is definitely winning. So I'm going to end that one now and share those results with everyone so you can have a quick look. But yeah, handling payroll and compliance top, followed closely by a split between payroll deadlines and tracking employee hours and leave. So let's end that and jump straight into what is Buddy and what is Telleroo? Jonathan, over to you for an intro to Buddy, please.
Thanks, Kaylee. So in terms of Buddy, we're a cloud payroll software targeting mostly bureaus. So we definitely understand the pain points around hitting those deadlines, get payroll out in time and compliant. We've been running for around 6 years. We just launched in the UK earlier this year, and basically we offer full bureau payroll software. We're not a bureau ourselves, so we just empower you to run payroll.
Amazing. Thank you very much. So Telleroo is a bulk supplier and payroll platform software that cuts out errors, saves you time, and ultimately de-risks the whole payment process for accountants, for bookkeepers, and for business owners and their finance teams. We have built-in approvals and review processes. We've got confirmation of payee and alerts on new and updated payee details, helping you to catch mistakes and ultimately prevent payment fraud. And so we like to think it's actually a bit of an essential tool in your app stack. What we see all the time is business owners and accountants and bookkeepers coming to us and talking about fraudulent payments, talking about processes that they've got in place to try and mitigate those. And often they are really long-winded and not particularly enjoyable. And so we've tried to automate a lot of that and really bring it into the platform to make that process as risk-free and seamless as possible. But that said, what we want to understand is how you are currently handling payroll payments. So I will launch another poll for you, which is asking that exact question. So how are you currently handling payroll payments? Are you doing that manually via bank transfer? Are you using Bax? Are you using Telleroo already? Or are you doing something else? And if it's something else, again, please do share in the chat and let us know how you are handling those payments. We see a real mix of people when they're coming to Telleroo of how they're managing that process currently. Bax is definitely up there. but we are finding a lot of business owners are struggling to get access to BACS facilities from their banks these days, particularly if they're banking with some of the newer challenger banks like Metro, like Starling, etc. Bank transfers definitely still up there, but again, quite a manual process for lots of people. So it looks like we've had lots of answers on that. So I'm going to end that one now. Great to see the majority of people are using Telleroo already, which is fantastic. And then we've got a mix between bank transfers and BACS, which is exactly what I would expect. But let's end that one for the moment. So why integrate? Why have we done this partnership with Buddy? What's the point of Telleroo and Buddy integrating together? So payroll is often seen as a bit of a necessary evil, but it's hugely important to make sure all of our teams are getting paid. And so what we want to do is really make that payment process as simple as possible. Too often we hear business owners spending hours manually paying their teams or filling in forms to have to fax to the bank just to get their teams paid. And we know that there is a better way. So when we hear about new payroll providers like Buddy coming onto the scene, we are always very keen to integrate and make that whole end-to-end process as painless as possible. Jonathan, is there anything you want to add to that at all?
No, it's pretty much want to make it as seamless as possible. I know some of the people were telling us their challenges earlier around, the accuracy and everything else. So we're looking to get that start to finish as one process rather than have this little bit of payroll, this little bit of payments, and like 6 systems you've got to use. So integrated, and it's one seamless flow.
Exactly that. And on that note, Jonathan, I'm actually going to hand over to you to show us that seamless flow that we have built. While Jonathan is getting that up and starting to walk through the process, again, please do use the Q&A box. Anything that springs to mind, there's no such thing as a silly question. Please do pop it in there, and we will absolutely have time to go over those at the end.
Yeah, we should be ready and sharing the screen. Can you see it correctly, Kaylee?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're good to go. We're just into our Buddy account here. I've got a small test account so we can show this flow. So the first thing we'll want to do, if you've got Buddy and you're looking to connect Telleroo or vice versa, is go into your settings section where we've got our integrations, go all the way down to Telleroo, hit on that connect button. You'll get to sign in with Telleroo. I've already done that. So it's basically asking me to allow access. Once access is granted, I will go back and see that I can choose which bank company and bank account I will be using. I've already have these mapped company one, but if you're a bureau in particular and you handle multiple clients, it's easy enough. You just select which company you want and which bank account from that company. So you're not risking mixing up different Telleroo accounts with different clients. And that probably answers as well one of the questions that came in, because you're not taking any risk with this payments because the client will be vetting those payments, and we'll get to that in a little bit. So once I've got those mapped, then I'm going to go into my payroll. So I've got one employee here just to make it really simple. I've got my hours, my pay items. You can calculate that. The system does show you everything that you need in terms of the calculation. So hopefully that is de-risking you understanding that calculation. We're going to continue to a summary. This has an approval flow, which I will skip for the purpose of today's demo, but your client can also approve the payroll values that go in. Once I conclude that payroll, I'm just going to go into the history for the sake of time in this case. So I'm going to go on that very same view that we had before. I will choose the payroll that I want to send, and I have either a send Telleroo that appears over there, or I can resend a failed Telleroo payment as well. And I'll go through that flow as well. You can schedule a payment for a future date. Say you're doing your payroll days ahead of time, or you can just pay it now. For the sake of this example, will trigger an immediate payment. That will send to Telleroo, will switch my status into now loading. We'll keep polling and checking with Telleroo until that payment is either successful or has otherwise failed. If it does fail, we'll just update the status so you can try again. So what happens then? You can go into your Telleroo account. You'll have your payments, which are coming up here. I have this one, which is now awaiting approval, and I have another one that is awaiting funds. Over here, you can see the full list of employees that have gone through that payroll, and you can hit approve on that pay run. Once you approve the pay run, obviously the system will ask for the two-factor code. That approval that I've just shown can also be done by the client if they are the authorized approver. So you're not taking the risk of approving a payment on behalf of your client. Once that is verified, the system will just wait to have funds in the account and effect the payment. Kaylee, not sure if you want to add anything on that particular flow.
No, I think that pretty much covers it, right? I think the approval piece is really important there. I saw one comment in the chat when we were talking about how people are making payments that I think was from one of our accountant or bookkeeping partners who said actually at the moment they refuse to handle payments because of the risk. And I think this is exactly why we built these flows, right? So that actually you can be involved in the creation of those pay runs, in making that process really, really slick, but you can still have the client be the approver on the end of that, so that actually that risk still sits with the client. They're still responsible for approving. They're still responsible for ultimately making the payment into that account that's going to cover those salaries. But actually you can be involved in making the process really, really slick. And on the flip side of that, you can also on the business end have dual approval. So if you've got a setup where you need a finance manager and a director to approve, or two directors, or whatever that process needs to look like, you've got the flexibility to build that into your process as well. But the whole point here is just to make it as seamless as possible and remove the need for downloading files, for manually keying in details, etc., etc. Thank you very much, Jonathan. That was super helpful. So if I dive back in to where we were, demo done. Again, any other questions, please do pop them in the Q&A box and we will get to those in a moment. But before we do, I know that some people like to jump off of your Q&A sections. So I do have one last poll for everyone, which is just what do you need from us next? So your options are nothing, we're all set. You'd like to explore Telleroo a little bit more, you'd like to explore Buddy a little bit more, or actually maybe you want to hear from us both. So whatever your answer, please do pop that in there. It just makes sure that we can follow up with you in the best way possible and give you the information that you need. So please do pop your answers in there. But in the meantime, I'm going to start firing some questions out. Jonathan, question for you. Where in Buddy can we store employee bank details?
Yeah, great question, Kaylee. So if I go into Buddy, we've got a people list. So this holds information about all the employees for this particular client. If I click on one of the employees, there's a section called bank, which basically holds the bank details. So all you've got to do is make sure you fill that in. If you're starting afresh, you can import all the bank details as well via an Excel or CSV upload.
Amazing. Another question was around whether Euro US dollar payments can be made. Telleroo absolutely does allow that. So that's not an issue. We work on a send and convert model. So you would put GBP funds into the account and we would send and convert those out to whatever currency it is that is needed. And that is all super transparent in our platform. We show really accurate conversion fees, exactly what you're going to be paying at all times. And the people at the end will ultimately get the amount that they're meant to. We don't take any fees out of the amounts that are actually being sent across to your teams. But I think other than that, oh, no, we do have one more question. Here we go. For holiday management, does this mean employees have to log in to request holidays?
Great question. So yeah, there's a number of things we didn't cover in this presentation. So we do have holiday management. We do come as well with an employee mobile app. So employees can request holidays. The client or the business can approve those holidays, and then we'll calculate holiday pay to put them into your payslip. So we basically cover the full flow start to finish. Hopefully that answers the question.
Amazing. And hopefully whoever asked that has ticked the box to say they want to explore Buddy more, and they can have a full demo of all functionality there. But I think that was it in terms of questions. Thank you to everyone that answered the poll there. We will reach out depending on what you have asked for. But nothing else from my side. Jonathan, a huge thank you for joining us, for giving us a beautiful demo of the integration. And a huge thank you to everyone that has joined us. We look forward to hearing from you soon. Take care.